So 3 days of matches are completed. More like 2.5 after just one match on the opening day, but so far, there have been some really fun matchups. How are you enjoying the tournament so far? Me, I am. It's fun to have some football matches to watch all throughout the day. See teams that I'm not typically watching that closely. I honestly love the Porto versus Palmeiras game. Finally some atmosphere. But we'll speak about that some more later. Guys, let's talk about what's happened so far in the Club World Cup 2025. I don't know that I'll do this daily. I mean, we'll see. Maybe every 2 days or something like that makes a little bit more sense. Who knows? Let's see how the wind blows. The opener. Attendance seemed to be pretty whatever, and that's not a huge surprise, right? If PSG versus Atletico Madrid was the opener, then yeah, the stadium will be full, as it was at the Rose Bowl. We have the official attendance of that later, which was pretty damn good. But anyway, the worst performance from this match was that opening ceremony. I mean, Swaley, whatever, that was fine. But that first song was awful. The Club World Cup anthem, I assume it was. I mean, I didn't even look into it, to be honest. Don't really care to know more about that song. Like, there's a tasteful way to do a World Cup anthem, right? Like 2010 knocked it out of the park. But this was way too on the nose, on some football is the game of the world, we play it in every corner, and it unites us, and get your head in the game type of beat, right? And honestly, it really looked like there was more Ahly fans than Inter Miami fans. Could have just been that the red was popping more against the blue seats, but it looked like the Egyptian community showed up for this. Plenty of Egyptian national team jerseys as well, which, was good to see. Of course, this game ended 0-0, but there was some entertainment to be had for sure, as it was open. At least Inter Miami's defense was begging to have the Egyptian side cut right through them in that first half. All over the place, much better in the second half. And hey, if you want an example of how much this tournament means for these players, look to Imam Ashur, who was forced off with injury early. I felt horrible for him. One of Al Ahly's most important players as well, but he was distraught at his tournament being over. And it's too bad as well, because you can see how the link-up play with Trezeguet would have been special to watch against this frail Inter Miami defense. I think they would have smoked him in that first half. Now, despite losing him, who is one of their creative sparks, Trezeguet was still industrious out there, and Al Ahly were having the lion's share of the chances in that first half, and probably should have been a man up, as Aviles should have been sent off in the 40th minute with a second yellow card. It was, I guess the referee was just doing him a favor there. So yeah, Al Ahly with a new coach, a bunch of new players, and it really looked like it at times, as they looked disjointed in that second half once they started making some changes. Messi, of course, would have won it in the 95th minute if not for a keeper's save off of the bar. Then El Sanawi with another save off the dome to hang on to that point for Al Ahly. Now, Inter Miami takes on Porto next, which will be difficult. Al Ahly versus Palmeiras. We're going to jump over to another group. So this game happened, and it was exactly as expected, maybe even worse than expected, to be honest. I was expecting maybe a 5 or 6-0 or something like that. But this is exactly what happens when a semi-pro/amateur team takes on one of the top 5 best teams in the world, right? This is always going to be the outcome. Some of the guys playing for Auckland had to take unpaid leave from their actual jobs to come and play in this tournament. Some of them had been, studying in university just weeks before coming out. Some had been working in the pharmaceutical business. So, of course they were going to get smashed. Next up, Bayern will have Boca Juniors, who they should also beat, but will put up far more resistance than part-timers. Auckland will take on Benfica. More on those two later. Also, Harry Kane not getting a single goal involvement? What? But I've seen a lot of stupid takes of people saying that they shouldn't even be at this tournament. And look, they won the Oceania Champions League, man. They earned their way here. What do you want them to do? Not show up? And now they have already confirmed that the 3.5 million USD that they are taking home will be dedicated to building an all-weather football pitch back in Auckland, which will, in theory at least, help to develop New Zealand youth football. So there you go, your silver lining of the drubbing. Okay, a Champions League matchup here, and from the get-go, we saw Atletico looking like they had prepared well for this game, as their pressing on PSG was quite strong. Had difficulty retaining possession in early exchanges, but were looking good with their off-the-ball work, but That slowed down a ton. Maybe it was the sun. I don't know. Less of a press, more of Atletico just holding their shape, very, very compact. And once PSG starts turning that screw, once they get comfortable in the attack, we've seen how that goes. Playing in Europe, playing in North America, doesn't matter. Same outcome. PSG were able to take the lead thanks to a great strike from Fabian Ruiz into the bottom corner, and they were dominant. Atleti could barely get out of their own half. Their most dangerous moment came from an Alvarez free kick that went just wide in the first half. But other than that, they were thrilled if they got a sniff of the PSG box, right? And in that beating sun, PSG just made them run and run and run, chasing the ball everywhere and not really getting too close to it. Nasty stuff from PSG. Until Atleti did have a decent opportunity, Griezmann's attempt saved, only for PSG to head in the other direction with Kvara, who laid it off to Vitinha, and he finished coolly for 2-0, too easy. Second half was a much better competition, right? PSG still stronger, but Atleti putting up a much better fight. They even put the ball in the back of the net, which was a well-worked goal and a tidy finish from Julian Alvarez, but it was brought back for a foul on Doué in the build-up, which was the right call. Even better, the referee having to announce his decision and being obviously uncomfortable with it. Can you hear me? When we can all hear you. Hey, can you hear me? Yeah, we hear you, dude. We got you. Anyway, tough match for Atleti. Not just because of the football that PSG play, but just not getting things to go their way. You had the goal disallowed. You had the Nuno Mendes handball situation, which is aggravating. You had the Oblak situation, which Langlais got himself sent off for. And that tough day continued with Sorloth missing a tap-in from like 3-4 yards out. Just horrible luck. And that produced one of my favorite Simeone trademarks, you know? Collapsing in agony from a miss, then switching immediately to getting up and encouraging his team to continue the play like that. He always does that, you know? Love that. Love seeing that when he brings that out. But with the changes Enrique made, I believe PSG's front line had a combined age of 13, and they still scored. They had a combined age of 60, including the old man, Lee Kang-in, at 24. Old ass. Get younger, old man. But that's nuts. Mbaye is 17, Mayulu 19, third goal, scrappy struggle fest for Atletico, just a forgettable game for them. Also, 80,000 people at this match, but with how massive the Rose Bowl is, it didn't look like that many people. But without ultras or even just some regular old away support, absolute negative energy. Energy was negative out of 100. Although I will say DAZN's audio mixing is weird, so maybe there was more atmosphere. I don't know. 4-0 the final after a penalty. Rough for Atleti. PSG continue to look for someone that can stand up to them. Lee Kang-in, is that one of his last goals for PSG? Who knows? People think he's going to be on his way out. Finally, guys, this is why I was excited to watch this tournament. To watch like Brazilian teams, not just to see how they play, but because of all of the Brazilian expats and traveling fans that would bring some atmosphere to the matches. Everything before this was relatively dead, at least on the live feed, right? I can't speak to the atmosphere in the matches. But the Brazilians and Portuguese brought some life to the stadium. MetLife Stadium. This was probably my favorite match of the tournament at the time, as both teams wanted to attack, both teams play some tidy football, but one complaint. Even my wife said it, by the way. She was actually watching a lot of the games with me, and she was like, oh my God, man, there's always just a guy on the ground screaming every minute. And that first half, to be fair, was pretty bad. Stop-start stuff. I mean, you know, it's a Brazilian team versus a Portuguese team. There's always a chance that's going to happen. But anyway, seeing both Rodrigo Moura and Estevão doing their thing in the first half was great. Great flashes of ability from both, each troubling defenders. But as far as goal opportunities, Palmeiras should have been ahead before Estevão scuffed his lines. Ramos saved it, then they saved the rebound, and then the ball was cleared off the line. I mean, I love me a goal line scramble, but Palmeiras missed opportunity there. And in the second half, Porto definitely improved, but ultimately I think the draw was the right result. These two sides are expected to top the group, and that seems likely here, right? Porto take on Inter Miami on the 19th, with Palmeiras taking on Ahly. You simply cannot speak about Seattle football without someone serving up this video.
Come on, Seattle! Come on, Seattle! Fight and win!
Iconic video, which unfortunately has branded Seattle as a cringe fan base to the outside world, but they have a great support. As do Botafogo, like all of the Brazilian clubs will in this tournament. And these two met on Sunday evening in Seattle, who will have home advantage for every single match. This truly was a game of two halves, right? As Botafogo looked good value for their 2-0 lead at the half, capitalizing on mistakes from Seattle's defense, while Seattle came alive in the second half and nearly turned things around thanks to one of the Roldan brothers, Christian. CR7. I mean, it was all hands on deck for Botafogo in that second half to hold on to all 3 points. They just got away with it. Also, one of the guys who I was looking forward to seeing in this competition was 19-year-old Obed Vargas from Seattle Sounders. He's an exciting talent, he's an Atleti supporter, and he's fun to watch in that midfield. Guy plays with speed. Of course, he was outshined by Christian Roldan, yes, but still. Another example of Seattle starting a match slow, being punished for silly mistakes, and then going on to show that they can play better in the second half, but it's too little, too late. The damage is done already. So, Seattle will host Atleti next, while Botafogo and PSG will face off. Not 100% sure what the thinking was as far as having LAFC and Chelsea play in Atlanta. The attendance was horrible, as you can see. Don't get the benefit of the home side bringing in supporters. It's also 3 p.m. on a Monday. Weird. Not to mention the horrendous pricing that they had. Make the matches accessible and people will come. And schedule them in places that make sense also. Absolutely embarrassing for FIFA. And honestly, we will probably see more matches with poor attendances like this in the group stage. Absolutely we will. At the prices that FIFA were charging for tickets, coupled with the timing of this tournament, a lot of people going on vacation or in the middle of school, the average football enjoyer in America is going to save their dollars for next year, instead of paying for travel, hotels, tickets, food, etc. at this Club World Cup. And honestly, the stadiums that they chose, not sure what they expected. I mean, there are more appropriately sized stadiums. But anyway, at least LAFC had some traveling fans and they were loud. But while Chelsea were mostly in control of this game, LAFC weren't just rolling over. They were defending quite well at times. They had moments when they were troubling that Chelsea back line and there could have been danger if they had a better finish, but they just lacked that final ball. But Boanga looked lively and dangerous, and the roadmap for this game was clear. LAFC would have to be very, very industrious, mostly on the counter. Chelsea, on the other hand, had a few close calls in that first half, but they cut LAFC open thanks to a lovely ball from Nicolas Jackson through to Pedro Neto, and he did well to lose his defender and slam it low past the keeper. Like I said previously, as a finisher, Nicolas Jackson is not that guy, but he adds much more to the game, and he showed it there with that pass through to Neto. LAFC looked way better in the second half, with David Martinez troubling them with a curling strike that hit Giroud, as well as an absolutely terrible strike from him after he had beaten the defender and had Sanchez at his mercy. And LAFC actually looked pretty decent in that second half. They were scaring Chelsea now and then, weren't they? But Liam Delap came on and he looked quite good. I don't know what was... I was a fan of this move. I don't know what some people were so scared of, thinking that he wasn't really ready for this. I think he's going to be fine at Chelsea. And he set up Enzo Fernandez. Enzo Fernandez ending up in the box late once again, arriving late and applying a finish. 2-0 Chelsea. Game of the tournament. And again, we had some fantastic atmosphere. Once again, thanks mostly to the South American supporters. This time, the thousands and thousands of Boca supporters in Miami. And I mean, after they scored, it sounded like this match was at La Bombonera, right? This was a Boca home match. Okay, so Benfica was quite brutal. Mostly, I would say just in this game, but in the first half especially, weren't they? Started fairly well, but completely lost control. And I hate to say it, as it isn't really analysis, but we just got completely out-hustled, outworked. It was insane. Every 50-50 was lost. We had so many misplaced passes that were cut out, and Boca started doing, CONMEBOL things, getting in our players' faces, going in hard with the tackles, getting a rise out of Benfica players, and Benfica just couldn't get into the game at all. They couldn't handle that. Namely, Renato Sanchez, who snapped back a few times. He was playing with fire. I mean, coupled with the Boca support, as well as Benfica's back line looking shaky in that first half, Boca was absolutely the better team in the first half, and good value for their 2-0 after 30 minutes. The first goal, Florentino getting nutmegged like that, I mean, you don't see that too often, right? Just a great play from Boca. The second, bad defending from set pieces from Benfica. What a surprise. Isn't really new. Merentiel with the first goal, Boca's captain and bagsman, and Battaglia with the second. That second ball across at the back post was converted, but Otamendi managed to pull a penalty for Benfica out of thin air. I was pretty surprised with that penalty. to be honest with you, as he was kind of flying away from the goal when he got kneed in the ass. But I guess you also can't go through a player to get the ball. So I was happy to see Di Maria celebrate. So Benfica was given a lifeline at the end of the first half. And what did they do with it in the second half? Well, not much. From about the 55th, 60th minute onward, Boca was determined to play as little football as possible. You had Merentiel going down. Then when he was off the pitch, Marchesín decided to lie down as well. From the 60th to 68th minute or so, there was maybe a minute of football. Just a masterclass in the dark arts from Boca. And then Belotti getting sent off, unfortunate for him. But when your studs are up at the head of your opponent, you're in trouble, pal. Once Benfica was down a man, they actually played way better. I mean, no offense to Belotti. Otamendi, who played pretty well in this game, equalized from a corner, towering header from him, but the guy wasn't even marked. Not sure what Boca's defenders were doing there, but hey, we'll take it, man. But, I mean, just like I have no idea what Figal was doing, the absolute sick bastard. He knew exactly what he was doing with that horror challenge on Florentino. It wasn't even a challenge for the ball. He just wanted to hurt him. You could break someone's leg doing that. Scumbag challenge. Anyway, shame on him. He hadn't played in some time due to injury, I believe. Clearly, he wanted more time off, and he'll get it. And so it ended 2-2, two Argentines scoring for Benfica, and probably the right result in the end. After the first half, no, but I can say the most entertaining match of the tournament by far. The fire between the two teams, the atmosphere, it had it all. Really, really entertaining. Both of these teams will probably get smoked by Bayern, so it's going to come down to who can defeat Auckland City FC by more goals to see who advances in second. Hello, it's me again, another very fun atmosphere, folks. Another very fun match, as we have Northern Africans from Tunisia bringing the noise, as well as the ever-reliable South Americans by way of the Flamengo supporters, the Brazilians bringing it once again. The atmosphere at this match was great. It really was. It was awesome to see so many Esperance de Tunis supporters, but yeah, clearly outnumbered by the Flamengo supporters, as one would expect. And Flamengo were outplaying Esperance for pretty much 75% of this match. A dominant display, getting the opportunities early and often, header splashing over the bar, dangerous balls through the box. Jorginho pulling the strings in the midfield for Flamengo. He looked great out there. And they got their goal just 17 minutes in as the ball was put on a plate for the talented Jorge de Arrascaeta. He made no mistake. 1-0 to Flamengo. Great awareness from Araujo to set up Arrascaeta. Flamengo, remember, under Felipe Luis, were really trying to strangle Esperance de Tunis. Strangle them into submission as they were pressing very, very well, often winning the ball back in Esperance's own midfield. But in the middle portion of this match, they looked a lot better. Esperance, that is, with Belaïli causing a lot of issues. He had two strikes, one that just went over and one that was saved, that were quite dangerous. And it was always going to be him, right? I mean, we spoke about him in the preview, how he had so many goal contributions. Still, though, easy to say that Flamengo were the more superior side in this match, the better of the two teams. They got a second goal in the 70th minute, despite having good chances prior. Araujo getting the goal that he deserved. He was dangerous throughout this match, wasn't he? Great curling strike into that bottom corner. Great strike from him, and set up by Jorginho, who is really dominating the midfield, just in general. His first competitive match with Flamengo. Looking great out there. So, 2-0 the final when Flamengo were feeling it in the attack. They looked very, very, very dangerous. Looking forward to seeing more of them, and their supporters, of course. Their match against Chelsea should be a fun one. That's who they play next, while Esperance de Tunis take on LAFC. Thank you, Editor Adrian. And so, guys, that's our first recap here. Shout out those Esperance de Tunis supporters. South American and Northern African supporters so far are showing up. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you for another video tomorrow. Not on the Club World Cup, on Franco Mastantuono. Sound good? Bye.